You're listening to a classic business podcast as heard on Classic 102.7. 102.7.
Well, the issue and the challenges around education have never been more in focus in the country, with the matric results being followed in quick succession by controversies around NSFAS and funding, and that spilled over into the student protests at universities around the country. And we know there are challenges both socially and economically that affect education at all levels, from grassroots right up to higher education. But really, if we're honest, to ease the challenges faced at our higher education levels, we really should collectively as a country rally together to fix the challenges at the grassroots. That's really where it all starts. And I recently came across a model which aims to address several of these challenges that impact learning in mostly disadvantaged schools. You think of access to digital learning, lack of proper infrastructure, lack of learning equipment, and lack of training for educators. There are many issues to sort out. Well, to talk about this exciting model and how it all comes together to help fix education from the ground up, I'm joined now by Stephen Lebere, CEO of AdoptaSchool. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me on your show. Now,
one could call you principal-in-chief rather than CEO. How did you become involved in the education space, which is often a vocational calling and a labour of love?
Michael, my background, to no surprise, is from an engineering background. And when I joined AdoptaSchool, it was exactly based on the challenges that we see in our schools, where there's a lack of infrastructures, there's overcrowding in school, lack of sanitation, no resources in school. And I think AdoptaSchool, through its model of whole school development, is really trying to address the inequality in education and ensure that our learners, our children, receive quality education and the opportunity that arise from such schooling. And really, this is done through this model of whole school development. But we believe as AdoptaSchool, Mike, we cannot do it alone. We act as a vehicle that really brings in corporate individuals to invest effectively in education in South Africa. And we've done it through the process that we call process of adoption.
So how does that all come together, Stephen? What is the AdoptaSchool Foundation, firstly?
The AdoptaSchool was established in 2002 by our chairperson, Cyril Ramaphosa. And it's one of the entities of the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. And how it came is actually through a request from one of his schools, where he attended. It's Chilizi Primary School in Soweto. They requested a fax machine, and he went to the school to donate the fax. But when he arrived at the school, he realized the need is more. There was lots of overcrowding. The infrastructure was in bad condition. And then he mobilized corporates to come on board to assist the school. And when we built some classrooms, we put in a science lab, and we fixed the library. And that's why he realized that if donors can adopt schools, we might be able to address the inequalities in our schools. And that is how AdoptaSchool was established.
Right, from fax machines back in 2002 to, I'm sure, fibre connections now to ensure that schools have access to the best of online and digital education. What have you discovered through the years as the critical factors that enable success or indeed impede it through this model?
When we started AdoptaSchool, as I did indicate on the issue of the fax machine, I think our focus was more on the infrastructure. And we were focusing a lot because by that time, that was the biggest need in our schools. There was so much overcrowding. There was pit latrines, as you can see what's currently happening. And as we grow and we learn, we started then realizing, the infrastructure, as much as it was making sure that schools are conducive for teaching and learning, it was not addressing the challenges in education in a holistic manner. And that's when we started looking, how do we look at developing our educators? How do we start addressing the leadership in the schools? how do we look at the social economic challenges that our learners are facing, the social challenges that are facing in our schools, when learners go to school hungry, and that is how the model was developed to really address that. And we do that for a minimum, we stay with the school for a minimum of about 5 years,
And I mean, that really cuts to the heart of what is required here. It's not just infrastructure and it's not just financial resources. It's a wraparound model to really handhold at that particular school. How long is the adoption cycle and how many schools so far are actually involved in the program?
Currently, we have over 620 schools in the program, and our biggest footprint is in the Free State. And the reason being in the Free State is when we were developing this model and we realized it's working, then we took a decision to say now it's time to test this model in a bigger scale. And then we went to the Free State and we met with the MEC to say, MEC, let's go on a partnership, rent for rent, and be able to implement. We have this model and then we brief them about this model. And the MEC bought in and said, okay, let's look at, I will give you 2 districts which have more than 200 schools, over 400 schools. And then if you can transform those schools, that will make the Free State to be the top performing province in the country. And then they say, we're willing to partner with you guys. And that was probably like 7 years ago, And I can tell you when we implemented this model, many people thought it's not going to work. And today I can say the Free State is one of the top performing provinces in the country. The districts where we're working and we have implemented this model are in the top 10 top performing districts in the country. And that is how we've developed and scaled this partner-based model in the Free State.
I want to come back to educators. I mean, it really does sound very encouraging and like something that has the ability to scale as well. Are there financial incentives for educators? How do you solve for that particular part of the puzzle?
For us, the focus is to transform the schools, and we do it through educator development. We develop the educators to be able for them to transfer the skills to the learner, to be able to teach. We give them the resources, we give them the tools on how to teach. And I can make an example. This is an incentive. You find educators are highly qualified. They went to universities, they have their degrees, but the challenge that they're facing is how they can teach. For example, maths. We've always been saying maths is a difficult subject. And then when you start engaging, you realize some educators don't know how to teach maths. They might have done maths, they might have the qualifications, but they don't have the techniques on how to teach maths. And that's where we come and giving them the tools, the techniques on how to teach maths, And that is how we develop them, the focus on our education. And the focus is more on educator development.
And now in terms of scale, you've mentioned that you approached the MEC in the Free State who said, we will pilot this in a couple of districts. What potential is there to scale here, to take the model of AdoptaSchool, which brings in corporate partners as either financial donors or otherwise giving of time or resources? What is the opportunity here to scale with the Department of Basic Education?
I think the Free State partnership have shown that there is a huge opportunity to scale the model in other provinces. And I'm excited also to say that, we've already started another partnership with Anglo American in Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, and Limpopo, where we're talking about over 100 schools. That's where we're starting now to also scale it up in those provinces, and we're targeting the districts. Yes, this scaling cannot be done only through us. We need partners. We need the corporate to come on board, to invest in this program. And we can only succeed when we have that collaboration and partnership with the department and corporate, because partnerships and collaboration. We've seen it in the Free State, how it has worked. And what is also good in the Free State, we managed to bring also the full strength empowerment, which have also come on board to partner with us in the Free State. So we've scaled it to over 450 schools in the Free State, and we want to replicate it also in other provinces. But we can only do it with the support of corporate.
Well, there you have it, Corporate South Africa, and I know Corporate South Africa spends on education. If you look at all of the trialogue studies, over 50% of CSI spend goes into education. There's a fantastic model that is doing great work to help scale up the interventions that they're making in basic education. Stephen Lebere, CEO of AdoptaSchool, talking about this whole school delivery model.